Thanks, everyone. Thanks to both of you for being here today. And thanks to Design Miami for hosting this important conversation. DIY as a Black woman in America. Thank you to as well to Adidas for bringing us together today. It's official. We are now all Adidas family.
Which is amazing, by the way.
What's up, Tina?
What up?
Designer Tina Brehon has spent years developing a growing, loyal following of modern millennial working women who've come to appreciate her bold, progressive looks at affordable prices. In larger quantities, the brand could be defined as accessible. However, as limited runs, women are often left wanting more. Tina has worked diligently to establish her women-centric foundation in design, always empowering women to shine. At the urging of many of those women and even other notable designers, now Tina is making moves to make sure her work reaches even larger audiences. Tina is a story of endless curiosity, resourcefulness, and not letting humble origins define a life, career, and perspective. Pharrell Williams is a musician, designer, film producer, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. He's passionate about advancing opportunities for the disadvantaged and channels much of that energy into his nonprofits. Yellow, focused on evening the odds with regards to education opportunities, and Black Ambition, which is focused on propelling the prospects for young entrepreneurs emerging from HBCUs. So before we get into, all right. So before we get into today's conversation, I wanted to ask Pharrell, why is this such an important conversation that had to be had, and why do you want to be a part of it?
Well, one, thanks for having us. And again, love and respect to our Adidas family for extending this opportunity for us to introduce to people who may or may not know Tina and her work. But it's just important because I feel like in this day and age, it's tough on Black women when there are things that you need. And you either may not have the money or the resources, like that's when DIY kicks in. And I think, championing that concept and that notion is something that it's necessary, especially for Black women in this country. They need to know that they're supported in their like efforts and their like lifestyle of like DIY. And this is just a great opportunity, I think, for people to meet someone who's really good at it. I mean, she does her own hair. I don't know how she does that. I don't know how you do that. I mean, like I couldn't cut my hair. How do you do your own? How do you braid your own hair? I mean, in that way. I'm not saying that people don't braid their hair, but I'm saying that way. And I mean, that's just like the tip of the iceberg. And I just feel like, man, it's high time that we celebrate someone like that.
I wanted to sort of set the stage by talking about how the two of you met. In case everyone hasn't noticed, we're all from Virginia, repping VA all day, every day. Pharrell, when and where did you meet, and how long did you know each other before you learned she was into making clothing?
So one of my best friends, one of our best friends, they're married, and I never really knew what Tina did until one day, my wife showed me, I don't know if it was shirts first or hats first, but like, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, where we get that from? Oh no, Tina made it. I was like, what? And then it seemed like I just went down. It's like being on YouTube when you go down like a rabbit hole, like when you just like, you're just in it and you see that there's so many other things that this person does. Then it becomes like okay, well, what's happening here? And that's when I realized, because at that time I didn't know that she was like making clothes for herself. And when I found that out, I just became interested, because it's like, that show, How It's Made, it's like literally you're like talking to someone who's figured these things out on their own. hence the term DIY.
All right, let's get into it, Tina. Let's start with the obvious question. Girl from Huntersville. Where is Huntersville and what should we know about it?
Huntersville is basically the place where I spent majority of my life. It was my upbringing. It's a neighborhood in Norfolk, Virginia. Low income, pretty rough, but it is what I attribute to making me who I am. Like growing up in that type of neighborhood definitely shaped me and groomed me and helped to develop my character, and just being surrounded by that type of community that was tight knit, it forced me to, be myself and be creative.
So, in your line, like, how would you describe your line?
I would say thoughtful, relaxed, and practical.
When did you have like discover you had a love for fashion?
Wow.
And any fashion icons? Did you have any growing up?
I discovered my love of fashion in my early teens. It was a period where I was transitioning from middle school to high school. I know y'all know that it was a high school in Norfolk that was considered the fashion high school of the Hampton Roads area. And I remember my friends wanting to go to these basketball or football games, and finally going with them and seeing these girls that went to this school that were dressed from
Tell us the school.
Head to toe. It was Booker T. Washington High School.
Yes.
And
Facts.
I mean, when I
we always heard this. We from the beach, so we always heard this.
It was fascinating when I seen these girls like dressed from head to toe to go to a high school basketball game. I was blown away. They looked like girls from, the videos. And I couldn't believe that they dressed like this to go to school. And I was just like, I gotta go to this school. It was just too cool. So my mom actually ended up filling out of district forms for me to go to this school because I just felt like I needed to be a part of this. And in the early 90s, listening to music, Lil' Kim, Foxy Brown. I remember one time being at an outlet mall with my parents and seeing a pair of Ellen Tracy sunglasses. And I heard that in a song. And I was like, I gotta have these sunglasses. Like, there's no way my dad can tell me no. There's no way he can tell me no, that I can't have these. So I ran to him and I'm like, can I please have these? And to my surprise, he actually bought them for me. But I got those shades because I heard it in the song. And in our area, we really didn't have any type of higher end designers. You would have to go up north to shop or whatever. But I needed those sunshades. So as far as fashion icons, I never had a celebrity fashion icon. I more so admired the girls in my neighborhood and my uncle's girlfriends. They had the best hairstyles. They had the blonde stacked hairstyles. They wore bamboo earrings and
I remember
crazy, they wore crazy long fingernails that were airbrushed with the charms hanging off of them. And speaking of airbrushing, one of my all-time favorite artists is actually my uncle. He had airbrushing on lock in the early 90s. He used to airbrush at a mall called Military Circle that was popping. And this was the mall that everyone went to shop. And it was crazy to see him create and design on jackets and clothing, and to actually see people wearing his work. he drew murals and backdrops. And I think that's one of the things that really inspired me to be creative.
No. So I'm gonna break down the title of this discussion, DIY as a Black woman in America. What does the term DIY mean to you?
DIY for me is just that. Do it yourself. Whether you are creating something, fixing something, or making something happen. I believe that, if you're creating, then you're figuring it out. You are teaching yourself how to make something, or if you're fixing an issue, if you're fixing a problem, you're doing it yourself. Or if you're making something happen, like today, I always see so many people on social media that have things going on that didn't get a handout, that didn't have any type of help, and they figure it out. They do it themselves. They make it happen. So that's so broad to me, DIY.
So, all right. So do us a favor then. Shed some light on the whole process for us. Walk me through the process when selecting clothes, materials. What's your vision? What's the first and the last step of the whole process?
Well, I'm not formally trained. I'm self-taught. So it is totally unstructured, the way that I go about doing things. Like I typically don't sketch. I'm actually getting into the habit of sketching. So when I have an idea or I got a vision, I usually, have this picture in my mind that I gotta bring to life. And I usually go to the garment district. I love being immersed in textile and fabrics. I love to touch the fabric, see how they move. And usually I'll get inspired by just looking at different prints, and I figure out what I want to create that way. I buy my materials, I make it. Sometimes it's trial and error. And, I just go from there.
No, all good. So Pharrell, it's safe to say that Tina's super resourceful. Any stories about Tina's resourcefulness as a designer?
I'm just always fascinated by like her choices of like fabrics and the design. And I'm always like, man, did you make a pattern for this? And she'll say, no. I'm like, how are you doing that? And how are you making several items of the same article? Like, and I haven't been able to figure that out. But I think her resourcefulness, I think one thing that actually complements it is just the taste, and like I said, the materials.
Back to you, Tina. Like, where do you find inspiration from?
I find inspiration everywhere. Things that I love to do is listen to music. I love going to museums. I can go to the same art exhibit 50 times. And I find something new that inspires me every time. Traveling, I like being around, other cultures. And I get inspired by people watching too.
I feel like a lot of design, especially in fashion, is meant to be provocative or send a message. But you've always said it's all about the women, your customers that you serve. Tell us about your relationship with your customers.
Wow.
I know that they love you because I see girls around the way wearing some of your things. That's how I was like, that's how I was even exposed to your stuff.
I would say that I'm big on customer service. Having a relationship with my customers is very important. Although I like to follow my gut and be true to myself, it's very important to me to hear their voices and get their feedback and interact with them on, socials, because I do, although, like I said, I stay true to myself and follow my gut, I do want to cater to them as well.
What are the misconceptions and the obstacles that you encounter as a Black woman designing in an industry that's dominated by patriarchal gaze?
I think that unfortunately, as Black women, we get stereotyped a lot. We typically don't have the support that other people have. We always have to prove ourselves, and people feel like they may be taking too big of a risk on us. They don't see our vision. Oftentimes I feel like we're really forced to build from the ground up and like just prove ourselves and show that we're capable of doing anything, whatever. You know what I mean? I see a lot of women that are sacrificing everything and just going hard, getting it out of the mud by themselves, and just to assure that their dreams are a reality. And I really respect and admire that.
For both of you, representation matters across all industries. Why does it matter to you personally and collectively in the fashion industry?
I think she kind of touched on this a little bit. Like, we need more African-American designers, and we need more support so that we can level the playing field when it comes to expressing ourselves with like apparel and footwear. So we need that. We need that diversity. You kind of good at this too, cuz.
Think so?
Yeah.
I'm gonna piggyback on Pharrell and say diversity, inclusion, and fairness. I want to see people in the building that look like me, that talk like me, that walk like me. You know what I mean? So.
Same way you were inspired by the girls at Booker T. Booker T High School, that era that you're talking about, military circle, going to McCory's and seeing rope chains. And I did not know that was Sam. You're talking about Sam, right? Yes. I did not know that was Sam back then, painting all those like
those club backdrops. Yeah, that was my uncle.
And like t-shirts and like Shirt Kings era.
That's legend.
That's
he was
crazy,
before that though.
Man.
He was before Shirt Kings.
Yeah. It's like, but she's correct. That was a scene. I remember, man, when I was a little bit, right around that time, I want to say this video game place, which is not even, I don't even know if they even have those anymore.
Flipper
McCoy's. Man, that was like a scene. That was like every girl in there had, like you said, asymmetric haircuts, so dyed blonde, steps, big door knocker earrings,
the herringbone with the rope chains,
crazy herringbone, and thick socks, Jordans, in the best biker
or Princess Reeboks.
Or what?
Princess Reeboks.
Yes. But in the best, it was like biker short heaven. We used to go there and lose our minds. That was a scene.
It was.
Yeah.
For Tina, how are you supporting, and what can we all do to encourage other Black women in this industry? Like, what can we do to help?
So a few years ago, what I started to do to support was I created a space where I had these pop-up shops. And it was not only to showcase my work, but I noticed that it was so many other small businesses in the area just off of social. And I wanted to bring us all together to introduce, our customer bases to each other. And from there, I started to, try to shed light on other designers via social media. And I think it's just important that we shop small, we motivate and encourage these small businesses and Black designers. What you all can do is leave a good comment, that go a long way. You never know what type of day, what type of month or year that somebody is having. It could be on the brink of giving up, and just seeing somebody comment and say, wow, this amazing, keep going. I feel like that goes a long way. Or shoot somebody a DM, or if you see something that's really cool, repost it and share it, because that also goes a long way. I think they'll appreciate that.
For sure. Just shifting gears. What was the moment in which you realized you needed to create masks?
In March, when the pandemic got real. I actually was working on a project, and because of the pandemic, that project fell through. So I was kind of like, what do I do? And just sitting at home watching the news, seeing that, healthcare workers didn't have enough masks or protective gear, and knowing that, there were people that still had to go into work to the gas station or go into work to the grocery store, just to help us keep it moving, like some people didn't have a choice. They had to go to work. I felt so uneasy for some reason, and I'm a stickler in paying it forward because I feel like I'm often blessed, and I just feel like I gotta do something. So I had the materials. I didn't have to, go out and purchase anything. I'm like, I'm gonna quietly see if, anyone needs masks, because I know that most people didn't have masks before the pandemic.
I definitely did.
Right. Some people travel with them, but some people, just didn't have masks. And I started making some. I didn't know where it would go. I didn't know that I would, if I would be overwhelmed or not, but I was like, forget it. And for like maybe 2 or 3 weeks straight, I was up day in to night, cranking out masks by myself, which was pretty tough. But I knew that I was doing it for a good cause. And I think I posted on my stories on Instagram, and I'm like, if you're in need of masks, hit me up. I didn't say why or whatever. And it ended up snowballing, and I ended up creating masks for a local hospital in Virginia. And I was shipping them some up everywhere, New York, Georgia, wherever, anybody who needed masks, who were like PPE or, who had to be at work that didn't have them. I was making masks for them and their family members. And it felt good to, help those people out. That's why when the opportunity came for me to make masks and collab with Adidas for a Design Miami, I hopped to it because I felt like, yeah, wow, this is an amazing opportunity. And I'm super grateful. The Adidas team has been awesome. And I'm super excited.
What I love about it is if you hadn't have just jumped out the window and made the mask in the very beginning, if you didn't have that compulsion, this probably wouldn't be happening. So it's like, I feel like the universe rewards you, you know, when you're like the first to get out there and like be, you know, resourceful to and for people, like it replenishes you, it gives it right back.
I agree.
No, for sure. I'm gonna hit you with some rapid fire questions right now. Who is currently revolutionizing the design industry? Who do you think?
Black
this for
women.
both of y'all too. Okay.
Black women.
For sure. I believe that.
I'm with you.
What designers inspire you right now?
Oh man, I would say Rick Owens. I got a few. Rick Owens, Phoebe Philo, Alexander Wang, Isabel Marant, Dries Van Noten, just to name a few.
Mm-hmm. What's your motto?
I would say I have two. It's a quote that I
Give them to
love
us.
that says, "Nothing changes if nothing changes." And also Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Awesome.
Facts.
I want to know this one for sure. What is your personal theme music that helps you stay focused and motivated? What is the song? What's the jam?
I don't have one thing. I'm really all over the place. When I'm making clothes or being creative, yesterday maybe I was Sade. Today I might be Moneybag Yo. Tomorrow I could be Coldplay. I don't know. It just depends on what mood I'm in.
Last but not least, do you feel like the DIY mindset is one that will always stick with you? Or do you look forward to evolving, expanding, and so on?
I think that the DIY mindset is evolution in itself. Like DIY, you are constantly creating. So if there's something new to create, then you're creating what's new. You're always figuring something out. So I feel like I'll definitely always keep that with me. I mean, that's who I am as a person to my core. Like I always, I'm a Jane of all trades. I love to, work with my hands, whether it's drawing or painting or sewing, or it don't matter what it is. That's something that's embedded in me.